Hello y'all on YouTube, this is Rob with Rob's Nerdy Knives. Today I have a very special review, impressions of a knife that I've had for a while, but it is not the original knife that came in. I've done quite a bit of modding on this knife, but I still wanted to do a full overall review because I feel the core of the knife is worth the review and it would be accurate, but I also wanted to review it as a whole with this configuration because I think it's just fantastic. And I think it's something that would be worth considering when you take into account of what the knife is, the steel that's on here, and the parts that I've added to this, okay? This is the Spyderco Manix 2. This was the S110V blade steel special edition. It had blue G10 scales, and you can see that right there, S110V. So that's crucible steels. So S110V is a harder steel, really great edge retention. It's not like M4 or 3V. You're not going to go out and whack, things with. It would be more chippy, but it retains its edge really, really well. So it's great edge retention, which means it took a lot of work to strop this. I mean, it was already incredibly sharp because it's a Spyderco, right? So Spyderco's always come out sharp. I believe this, I'm not sure who the designer for this is. If anybody knows, feel free to comment down below. I don't recall. I couldn't find anywhere where it actually listed the name of the designer. But this has been out for a while. It has what they call as the Spyderco patented ball cage lock. So what it is, this looks a little bit like an axis lock or an enable lock or crossbar lock, but it's not. There's a spring, if you can see that, in there, and that pole is attached to this ball cage lock thing here. And this I replaced. Originally this was plastic. I replaced this with titanium version of this, and a different spring that's a little lighter and not as crazy strong as the original one. And inside there was a ball, and I believe the ball originally was like a steel ball or plastic ball or something, but I put a ceramic ball in there. So that made everything smoother. So when you pull this back, that ball releases on the blade, and you can see where it fits in right in there, right? It releases on the blade and it drops. Phosphor bronze washers between the two between the blade and the scales. The original one had liners, steel liners, and the liners had some jimping up here for some texture, jimping that would follow along with the jimping on the blade here. But this particular scales, these are Rockscale designs, and these are Rockscale scales, and they're titanium textured with sort of a, I want to say sandblasted kind of a nice texture on top of here. Give you a little traction, but it's nice and rounded all the way around here. So that makes it very comfortable. And they're linerless, so it drops a lot of weight on the knife, which is great for S110V, because S110V is not something I'm going to go out and beat the heck out of, but it's something I would definitely use as a slicer knife, which makes it fantastic. So the titanium cage ball lock was replaced, the ceramic ball was replaced, the spring that's on here was replaced, took out the liners, and these are linerless scales, which is really awesome. Use the same hardware, same screws, same blade, the same back part of the cage where the lock is. And then I put a Lynch clip on here. This is a Lynch clip, deep pocket carry titanium clip, which I like Lynch because it's titanium, it's flexibility, it's not going to be like a steel, it's going to be a little deeper. And there was a lanyard hole back here. The original Spyderco lanyard hole was steel, and it was really tight on the G10 scales, hard to get off. This is fitted for Rockscale Design's lanyard hole, and you can see it's the same color and everything. And you need that for stability because that balances the knife out here in the back part. All right, beautifully centered. I don't know if you can see that. That's let me make sure I get a nice center view here. Yeah, dead center, really nice. Still typical spider hole here, so you could definitely do a flick on here. Do the front and reverse flick, which is really nice. And then with the cage ball lock, like you would with an axis lock, you pull that back, you can drop and open and close it. Now, phosphor bronze is tuned really well. There's no blade rock on this, and they're really solid when it locks in. It's nice and in there, really solid as well, okay? And you can tune that a little bit if you want a stronger spring. So if the spring's too soft, you can make it stronger. I can put the original spring back in, but I like it like this. I like it like this a lot. Put a little nano oil 85 weight on the ball itself, and then I put the nano 10 weight oil on between the phosphor bronze, which makes it just buttery smooth. Just one of the smoothest Spyderco phosphor bronze knives I have. I love that. Absolutely love that. And flicks really well. Not super thick like my Shaman. So the Shaman is a very thick, robust knife. I think it's like 1.5, 0.15 to 0.16, 0.17 or something crazy like that blade stock thickness. This is a big boy. This is much thinner. We'll measure that in just a little bit. So that's really nice. So opening and closing is really nice. So you can open close with the thumbs. You can open and close it with the cage ball lock. All that together makes this really nice. So we added, a clip. We added this, we added the spring, the ceramic ball, the linerless scales, removed the scales. There's no jimping here, but still enough jimping, which I think is nice for what I want to do. Still choke up really well up here. You can still do a nice precision cut if you need to, which is really well. I love the full flat grind. Spyderco does such a great job. Comes down to a very, very thin edge, and boy, that edge, you can shave with that. You could whittle a hair with that. It is crazy. So all that is really great. I love the design. Spyderco does such a great job in their heat treat. That's why I was so excited to get an S110V, because when I found it, I was like just super, super excited. Now the cool thing is you can get the one with the blue G10 scales, which I did, or you can get the thin one, the thin scales, which is FRN. And Rockscale Designs, they do scales for the thin one and for the regular G10. And I got the regular G10. And I think they're about the same thickness, right? Because they removed the liners. So that's just something to consider. You don't have to get the G10, which I wish I'd known ahead of time, because I wouldn't have gotten the G10. You know, because that adds a little bit of cost. Because this is S110. It's not your typical S30V. And definitely a more premium steel. And I think it's definitely worth it. If you're planning to beat this up, take it in the field, cut wires and hack at things, get the S30V. I think that's more of a utilitarian type of steel that can really take some abuse, right? Or an M4 if they have it, or something like that, or 3V if you get one of those special versions. S110 is really going to be more of a nice slicer knife. I love cutting boxes and all sorts of stuff with this. It just retains its edge and strops up really nicely. So that edge right there is just really beautiful. Yeah, so open and closing, all that stuff works just really fantastic. I think there's a lot to be said about that. I think I've covered all the materials here. So let's go ahead and do some measurements. Now, if you see other reviews, their reviews are going to be with the G10 scales and the liners and everything. This is with the Rockscale Titanium. And before I do that, let me just make sure you see. This is really, can we get a good angle of that? It's really milled out in there. Really, really well milled out. So you can see there's a lot of milling, which makes this even lighter. So let's see what this weighs. 4.12 ounces. Now, I believe it's 5 or 6 ounces with all the scales, the G10 and the liners. It was way heavier. And some of the other reviews, I wish I'd weighed it before I did that. I didn't, so sorry. I'll have to go try to do that maybe at another time. But definitely, I can tell you the feel of it is ridiculously a lot lighter. Let's go ahead and measure the length of this. So 4.12 ounces, that's not bad, right? For all the steel and everything you have. Now, typically, I know ratios, you're gonna be like, oh man, the blade's super short. Well, it's Spyderco. Spyderco has this finger choil. They always do that. That's a design in Spyderco, so you can choke up on it, really cut well. It allows for just good presentation, for tough cuts and stuff. I like that. I like that about Spyderco. I think it's a neat design. It may not be for everybody, but for those of us who like it, it's really cool. All right, so let's go ahead and measure the overall length of the knife. The overall length of the knife, we're at 8 inches, exactly 8 inches. Now, if we take this little pocket clip, let me make sure you can see that, because I noticed a reflection. So we're at 8 inches, right? If you take that pocket clip, we get to 8 1/4, but that's not original, right? That's the Lynch clip. It makes it a little bit longer, which is fine. The overall length of the handle right here, we're at 4 inches, right? If you go all the way to here, you do the choke up point, you actually get 5 inches. So, I mean, I have medium to medium large hands, and mine are large widthwise, medium lengthwise. So I've got plenty of room here. I think extra, double extra large, no problem. If you choke up, triple, quadruple extra large, you get gigantic hands could get this. And that finger choil is very generous. You're not going to get close to the sharpening edge. It's got some jimping. You're not going to slide. Really feels locked in there. That is really, really nice. I think that's a super positive. Now let's look at the cutting length. So if we go from the tip to the base of the handle, which some places measure, we are looking at probably 3 3/8 of an inch, right? But if you do actual cutting length, we are just under 3 inches, right? So if we do from here to here, yeah, we're under 3 inches. We're like at 2 7/8, maybe even 15/16. It's right under 3 inches. It's real close. So depending on your state and local knife laws, if it's just the edge itself, 3 inches, you might be okay. It's pushing it. It's going to be up to the discretion of the police officer, and I'll caution you. But if it's the state talks from the tip to the handle, you're definitely over 3 inches, right? So just keep that in mind. I still think it's a great, great deal. All right, so let's do the blade stock thickness, because Spyderco tends to, like some of their bigger knives, tend to be more robust. It's about the size of a Shaman, I would say, but much, much lighter. So let's look at that. So yeah, so we're at 130th to 131 hundredths of an inch. Okay, so that's 130th to 130th, maybe 129 hundredths to 130th of an inch. So a little over 1/10 of an inch, definitely well under 2/10 of an inch. Not a very thick blade at all for such a big blade. It comes to a nice thin pokey tip, which if you're opening fertilizer, mulch, you know, like I did this week, or if you're opening up, you know, dog food, cat food, you're opening up cases of water, you open up boxes, presents, like this weekend's my wife's birthday, open up presents, things like that. All of these things, it's a nice tip here to get in there and cut. And this edge retention, this edge is so crazy sharp. So it's really good. I like that, very functional. All right, so let's talk about the overall cost. What is this? Is this a budget? Is it a regular knife or is it a high end? Well, when you first buy it, just with a knife, if you did nothing to it, about $220, right? And then if you get if you bought it at White Mountain Knives when it was available, you could probably get the 10% off. I think Spyderco, it qualifies, my RNK10. And if you didn't know, if you go to White Mountain Knives and you use RNK10 as a code, you get 10% off most knives. Not all of them, but most of them. Definitely check that out if you want to save a little bit of money. You can also go to Blade Ops. You can also go to Blade Ops and GP Knives. You can go there, and those are my affiliate links. You can check them out below. It helps the channel. You don't have to use them. No obligation whatsoever, please. But if you would like to and you want to help the channel, please feel free to use them. I would appreciate it. But if you're just looking for 10% off and White Mountain Knives, you can use RNK10. So that would bring this knife probably down to just under $200. So this would put it into, I would say, a regular knife. If you buy it just like that, do nothing. You keep the plastic ball cage lock, the regular steel ball in there, the regular spring. You don't do anything with the scales. But if you decide you wanted to put these Rockscale scales on, you wanted to put this Titanium, which is titanium cage ball cage lock, you want to put in ceramic ball, you want to put in the spring, you wanted to put in this little pivot hole in here, and you want to put in a lynch clip, it does add. So the scales will be about $150, right? This whole assembly, I got this from OCD for EDC. Check him out. He's got a knife channel, but he also has some stuff he sells. He sells compression lock made easy CMEs for like para 3s and paramilitary 2s, shamans, all sorts of different compression locks. You put this on there and it allows it very easy left-handed access. I have those on my para 3 and para 2s, okay? Highly recommend it. Also have it on my shaman. Highly recommend this stuff. But he has a whole little system. It's like a little Manix 2 kind of upgrade. This is Titanium. So it's the plain titanium. It's got a spring that's better. It's not as tight spring. It's a little softer spring, right? And so the ball cage lock is steel all the way back, and then he has a ceramic ball in there. All that together is like about $50. So that adds like, now we're talking $200 extra. And then you get the lynch clip, we're talking about $25. So now we're talking about $225 extra. So $220 to $225 makes it about a $445 to $450 knife. All right, so this definitely puts it into the higher end. This version right here is definitely in the higher end. I think this version is the best version of this knife, especially with the steel. If you're going to do 110 steel, I really recommend considering the Rockscale design scales. Now, are there other scales out there that are really fantastic? Absolutely. Absolutely. Are there, can you get the Titanium from somewhere else? Absolutely. Can you get the spring and the ceramic ball somewhere else? Absolutely. Can you get another thing besides a lynch clip? Absolutely. But lynch clip is really good. I recommend lynch clip a lot. I use him a lot of things. Really like his stuff. Casey Lynch is a really great guy. But all this together, I think is worth it. Oh, sorry, I forgot. This right here is going to be another $30. So we're like a $460, $470 range, okay? So yeah, definitely a nice higher end knife, right? All these pieces together, not including any discounts or any, things you might find out there, any discounts if you get them on a holiday. That's the thing. If you're looking to build this knife and you're willing to be patient, you could usually always find a discount. And that's the thing. I'm pretty patient when it comes to some of these things. I'm willing to wait and get the pieces when I can get a good sale. I'm willing to wait to assemble it together. And if you're okay with that, you might find yourself getting some great deals. If you're like, you want to get it now and you want to do it now, yeah, you might pay a premium. You might not get it right when it's on sale, right? So that's something to consider. All right. Let's go ahead and pull this out so we can get a nice look at this knife, because it's just a beautiful knife, I think. I think just for what you get. Now, for some people, Spyderco is not their thing, but you know what? When you get it in hand and you get the ergonomics, you can just know. All right, so definitely a high-end knife. So that's what I'm gonna say. So its use, let's talk about its use. This is everyday EDC use, absolutely. I wouldn't go chopping wood with it. I would never do that with anything but a fixed blade, right? Or an axe, probably preferable. But this is definitely an everyday EDC use. Open boxes, cardboard, cut cardboard all day long. open letters, envelopes, cut anything, you know, mulch, fertilizer, dog food, cat food, whatever you want. Yeah, all day long. This is a great user knife, an EDC knife. I like this a lot. I can use this all day and highly recommend it. And I do find myself carrying this way too often and neglect some of my other knives. And I'm sure they're sad about it, but they're not, because they're knives. They're not real. You know, they're real, but they're not alive, obviously. Everyone knows that. That's kind of ridiculous for me even to say, so ignore that. Anyway, basically, great knife. I love this setup. I love the colors. Now, sometimes they do release different colors and different patterns. They have different patterns. Smooth, if you like smooth. I like the little texture. I like that. I would, you know, if you're willing to wait, you can also find different kind of coatings on here, different colors that he does to the titanium. Definitely worth checking out and waiting for, maybe seeing if some of those appeal to you, you know. You could even check out, you know, RGT. They might have versions for the Manix as well if you don't like Rockscale, but I really like Rockscale. This is nice. And the linerless, man, just the lightness of this knife makes it just so comfortable and easy and convenient. I mean, it's a pretty big knife, you know. It's not a small knife, but it works really well, and it's super light for the size of the knife. Love that. Love that. So great EDC carrier. I enjoy carrying this a lot. So I think it's really fantastic for use for everything. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the handle and everything. All right, we already talked about the comfortable, the roundedness, all this stuff, titanium, really comfortable. Texture gives it good solid grip. I always like the Lynch clips. They're never really any hot spots. They're rounded. There's nothing sharp. I grip in. I don't feel like I'm burning. These are all rounded all around the corners, so there's nothing digging in. Even the little corners here, everything is rounded nicely, so you get a good grip. When you choke up, it's nice. You know, we got jimping everywhere. That's comfortable. The opening is typical of a Spyderco. You can use the Spyderco hole. You can do the slow roll if you want it to. You know, you can do the slow roll left-handed as well, right? So, and then you can do the left-handed flip. And this is a very ambidextrous knife. You know, now, ooh, dropping it here. Now, if you see in here, there's like 3 little holes right in there. Do you see that? So what I would say for this knife is when you talk to, if you talk to the Rockscale Designs, I'm pretty sure he can make these left-handed. You'd probably have to ask him for it, but there's certainly a guide right there where the screw holes would be, right? So to me, that seems like, you know, it's certainly leading to the fact that you could easily make this as a lefty. I'm not a lefty, so I was fine with this and I didn't want to ask, but certainly seems to me you could certainly ask them, right? So something to consider if you're a lefty. It seems like it would be very possibly lefty friendly, so something to consider. All right. Yeah, I think that's cool. But everything's rounded. This like texture on here makes this very comfortable to grip a hold of, right? Very quick to open and close, so that makes it really comfortable. I think that's really nice. The lockup here is really great. This ball lock, when it's in here, it's solid. There's no blade play. It's really in there well. The phosphor bronze feels like a Kate ceramic ball bearings, as smooth as that is. It's just so smooth. It drop shuts. So you can see this. I can drop shut that. Now, if I drop shut and let it go, it locks in, kind of like almost like a detent. I mean, you can call this cage ball lock pressure, sort of like a detent, and that's what gets it. So you see, we get over here, and where the spring reaches and goes over, you'll see this pop up. Here we go. So there you go. You see that? Nice in place. And that's what it kind of overcomes that. Sort of like an Axis crossbar lock, right? And when it's over here, it's really locked in there, solid in place. And it engages right in here on the tang of the blade, right? So very nice. The close is great. The open is great, right? The grip this way, the grip this way, you know, it's just really nice. If you needed to do a push cut, like if you're cutting some cardboard, you're cutting into something really heavy and you got to push into the box or a rope or something like that, works really well. So yeah, really, really nice. Everything about this is great. And it just, being so smooth as it is and as light as it is, makes it feel like a very elegant knife. And I love the design of all of this. Makes it look like a church knife, a go to work, go out on a date knife. Just has a really beautiful look to it, especially when I know it's a premium S110V steel, which is really nice. This is made in Golden, Colorado, USA. Scales made in USA. Flytanium cage ball lock made in USA. Lynch clip here made in USA. So this is a USA all together knife, 100% USA made, right? Now I saw some websites, they thought this was made in China, but this is a USA made knife. This is not a Taiwanese, Chinese knife, USA. So I like that a lot. So very good. All right. that is really a lot of the discussion about the knife and all the ergonomics. As you can probably guess, I'm going to recommend this knife very much so. You know, is it great even with none of all this other stuff? Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I would love it. I would love to still get the Titanium cage ball lock thing here. I really like that a lot. I like the grip. It's a little bit better with this. So I would very minimally pay the 50 bucks for that, right? Or 30 bucks or whatever it's cost. I would minimally put that on there for sure. So for sure for that, right? But I love the titanium scales. I think it's just a nice touch, especially with the steel. If it was S30V, I'd definitely leave the blue, G10 scales on there. Well, it wouldn't be blue G10 scales. It would be something else, because the S110V is typically for blue G10 scales is for the S110V. And this will patina because it says S110V after a while. Very lightly patina because it is very corrosion resistant, which is really nice, you know. But you will see a little bit of, not rust, but just a little bit of discoloration that occurs over time, which is typical, right? Sort of like what Manix does a little bit, but Manix is, I think, more corrosion susceptible than maybe S110V is. I think this has a lot of chromium in it, so it's really good. But anyways, and vanadium, obviously. So, but yeah, really, really, really nice knife. Highly going to recommend this. I think it's definitely going to be my recommended knife and recommended higher end knives. This configuration, I'm calling this a configuration. That's why I'm putting it in both. This configuration, I think, if you want to consider it, I wish they would sell a variant like this, because this would be awesome. And I think you should consider building a variant like this. If you're not into building these, then, you know, I'm sorry, but maybe consider it, because I think you would really love this. It's awesome. By the way, these are all T8 scales. This is a T10, but these are all T8s, T10, which makes this, except for these are obviously T6s, but which makes this really, really easy to work with. Really, really nice. So definitely check it out. That's my thoughts on this. Do you all have any questions about this? Anything you'd like to see me cover? Any questions about the review? Any questions about the knife or the channel? Please comment down below. I do try to reply to all the comments when I'm available. If you have any questions about future reviews, future videos, I do Rob's Ramblings. If you have any ideas for that, please feel free to share down below as well. Hey, if you like this video, if you like this review, found it interesting, entertaining, informative, just something of value, would you consider hitting the like button down below? And if you've already hit that like button, would you consider hitting the subscribe button? Subscribing and liking the channel and the videos really helps out the channel a lot, allows me to grow, to be able to do more things, produce more content, and have more things for you guys. And if you've done all that, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button, the notification button down below, so you can be notified of future content when it is dropped. And if you've done all that, maybe check me out over on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Again, that's on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Thanks so much for watching today. Have a great day and a great week. Bye.